what's good? It's directed to the worst crimes people got away with. If you watch the movie too, like I'm subscribed to the Put Kid Enough Terrorism video. Mm.
Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein was a rich and well-connected man who ran an operation that exploited young girls for decades. His people would find girls as young as 14 and offer them a couple $100s for what they were told would be massages. Once they were pulled in, they were paid to bring their friends. This happened across multiple properties.
Wait, so he was giving 14-year-old girls money and offering them massages? I mean, what type of money? Cause I ain't gonna lie, he a millionaire. I know what type of money.
Including a private island, a Paris apartment, and the largest private home in New York City. Police eventually caught on. After a year-long investigation, the FBI found 36 underage victims and put together a case with over 50 charges.
36, bro. 36 gang. It's like, bro, you got money, you got islands, and why you gotta mess with kids? You basically just mess your life up. Like, I don't even, bro's probably a billionaire. He got an island. You just mess your life up for some kids, bro. It's like, come on, man.
But Epstein had some of the best lawyers money could buy, and they got him a deal. Instead of federal prison, he pleaded guilty to 2 minor charges. He served 13 months in a county jail and was allowed to leave every day for 12 hours to go sit in a private office. The deal also said that nobody who helped him could ever be charged. His victims were never told any of this. For 10 years, the case went quiet. Then in 2018, the Miami Herald exposed how the deal was made. The public anger was so strong that Epstein was arrested again in 2019 on charges that could have put him away for 45 years. 1 month later, he was found dead in his cell. The guards who were supposed to check on him every 30 minutes had fallen asleep. The cameras outside his cell had stopped working, and his cellmate had been moved out the day before. After his death, records showed that politicians, royalty, and billionaires had all been flying on his private jet. The FBI said at least 10 people helped run his operation. Only 1 was ever charged. The rest never saw the inside of a courtroom. The Sackler.
So let me get this straight. Y'all running an operation to collect kids? Come on, gang. I don't know. It's 20, I don't know.
Family. The Sackler family owned a drug company called Purdue Pharma. In the late 1990s, they started selling a painkiller called OxyContin. They knew it was highly addictive, but they told their sales teams to say the opposite. Thousands of doctors were paid to promote the drug and tell patients it was safe. It wasn't. OxyContin became one of the most abused drugs in American history. Over 500,000 people have died from opioid overdoses since 1999, and it started here. The company actually pleaded guilty to criminal charges twice, once in 2007 and again in 2020, but the family behind it was never charged.
So they killed 500,000 people and get charged? Yo, what was the laws back then?
Charged. Not one of them. And while the lawsuits were piling up, the Sacklers were quietly moving money out. Between 2008 and 2018, they pulled over $10 billion out of the company and hid it in bank accounts overseas. Then, in 2019, after the money was out, they filed for bankruptcy. That bankruptcy did exactly what they wanted. It blocked anyone from suing them. A deal was eventually reached in 2025 for $7.4 billion, which sounds like a lot until you remember that over 500,000 people are dead. The Sacklers never went to court. None of them went to prison. They didn't even say it was their fault. Emails later came out showing that Richard Sackler, who ran the company for years, called the people dying from his product reckless criminals. Today, the family is still worth somewhere between $6 and $8 billion.
Hey man, what's the best advice you can give someone that's in sales?
Switch to Monday CRM.
Oh, awesome.
Emmett Till. In 1955, a 14-year-old black boy named Emmett Till was visiting family in Mississippi. A white woman.
No, that's racist. That's actually racist because when everybody else, he wasn't saying, oh, the white family, the white boys, but when the black boy come, you want to say, oh, a 14-year-old black boy. That's racist, gang. I'm just gonna tell you like that.
Named Carolyn Bryant accused him of whistling at her in a grocery store. Word got back to her husband, Roy Bryant. A few days later, Bryant and his half-brother J.W. Malam showed up at the house where Till was staying and took him. They beat him, shot him in the head, and tied a heavy metal fan to his body with barbed wire. Then, they dumped him in the Tallahatchie River. 3 days later, his body floated to the surface. It was so badly beaten that his own family could barely recognize him. Bryant and Malam were arrested and charged with murder. The trial lasted 5 days. The jury was all white, all male. Black people in the courtroom had to sit in separate sections, and the sheriff called them the N-word every time they walked back in from lunch. After just 67 minutes, the jury came back and said not guilty. One juror later said they wouldn't have taken so long if they hadn't stopped to drink pop. Years later, several jurors admitted they knew the two men did it. They just didn't think killing a black boy was worth putting 2 white men in prison for. The case made
It's like the video keep getting worse and worse. So they said, "Oh, he killed the black boy. We don't have to worry about that case. That it wasn't worth putting 2 white men in jail." The video just keep getting worse and worse.
national news. And because Bryant and Milam had been found not guilty, the law said they could never be tried again. They knew that. So they sold their story to a magazine for $4,000 and laid out exactly how they killed Emmett Till. Every detail. Out in the open. Nobody could touch them. Over the following decades, the government reopened the case more than once, looking for new evidence or other people involved. But in 2021, they closed it for good. They said there was no law on the books in 1955 that would have allowed them to bring the kind of charges
So they
needed.
made a whole magazine of how they killed him. Got money off that, and the judge cannot charge them off that, which is crazy.
And the time to do so had long since run out. Jimmy Savile. Jimmy Savile was one of the most famous people in Britain. He hosted some of the biggest shows on the BBC, raised over £40 million for a hospital called Stoke Mandeville, and was knighted by the Queen. For decades, he was treated like a national hero. Behind all of it, he was abusing hundreds of vulnerable victims. He did it in hospitals, schools, BBC studios, and even prisons, and it went on for over 50 years. His fame and his charity work bought him access everywhere. Hospitals let him walk around freely. The BBC let him do what he wanted, and he used all of it to get close to the most vulnerable people he could find. Complaints started as early as the 1960s. Hospital staff and BBC employees raised concerns with their bosses, but nobody wanted to deal with it. Police in different parts of the country received separate reports, but no one connected them, so the full picture never came together. Savile died in 2011 at the age of 84. He was buried with honors. It was only after his death that a major police investigation uncovered what he had done. They identified over 450 victims. He was never charged and died peacefully in his bed before any of it caught up with him. The KFC murders. On the night of September 23, 1983,
the KFC murders. Okay.
5 people were taken from a Kentucky Fried Chicken restaurant in Kilgore, Texas. 3 were employees, 2 were friends waiting to give one of them a ride home. The robbers drove them to an oil field road and shot all 5 of them in the back of the head. One of the victims, a 39-year-old woman named Opie Hughes, was assaulted before she was killed. The only physical evidence was blood found on a box and a napkin inside the restaurant. But in 1983, there was no way to match it to anyone. The case went cold. For 12 years, investigators had almost nothing to work with. So when a man
That's crazy how people used to get away with all these crimes back then.
started bragging about being involved, they arrested him in 1995 based on
Imagine somebody in the 1999s get charged right now from something they did back then.
that and a torn fingernail. The case fell apart. Then, DNA testing caught up. When the blood on that box and napkin was finally tested, it pointed to 2 cousins named Darnell Hartsfield and Romeo Pinkerton. Both had been
They did it.
on the original suspect list back in 1983 and were even on a wanted for questioning poster, but they had slipped through the cracks. By the time they were identified, both were already in prison for other crimes. Pinkerton pleaded guilty in 2007. Hartsfield was convicted in 2008, but DNA from one of the victims didn't match either of them, meaning there was a third killer. In 2025, 42 years after the murders, new DNA technology finally put a name to him, Devin Riggs. He had died in 2010. By the time anyone figured out what he did, he had already been dead for 15
So it took y'all 42 years to find out they did. I don't even know y'all work on cases that long.
years.
Whoa.
What's that?
I just built a budgeting app in Base 44.
Guys, Nina just built an app.
Sean Diddy Combs. For decades,
Okay, we all know what he did. We all know what he did.
Sean Combs was one of the most powerful people in the music industry, running record labels, clothing lines, and throwing some of the most famous parties in entertainment. And behind all of it, according to dozens of accusers, he was using that power to abuse the people closest to him. It started to unravel in November 2023 when his ex-girlfriend, the singer Cassie Ventura, filed a lawsuit accusing him of years of abuse. He settled it within 24 hours, but the case put a spotlight on him, and soon after, surveillance footage from 2016 leaked showing Combs kicking and dragging Ventura down a hotel hallway. After that, the lawsuits kept coming. In September 2024, he was arrested and charged with running a criminal operation that involved forced, drug-fueled encounters he called freak-offs. Prosecutors said he made his girlfriends take part in these with hired men, sometimes for days at a time. The trial lasted 8 weeks. The defense didn't call a single witness. In July 2025, the jury found him not guilty on the most serious charges, but guilty on 2 lesser ones. Prosecutors asked for 11 years. The judge gave him 4 years and 2 months. Days later, Trump confirmed that Combs had asked him for a pardon. Over 120 people accused him. He got just over 4 years. The Zodiac Killer. Between December 1968 and October 1969, someone killed 5 people in the San Francisco Bay Area. He shot 2 couples, stabbed a third while wearing an executioner's hood, and shot a cab driver in the head. Then he started writing letters to newspapers, demanding they print them or he'd kill more people. He signed them with a crosshair symbol and called himself the Zodiac. He included coded messages he said would reveal his identity. The first was cracked within a week. It said he killed people because it was fun. His name wasn't in it. His closest call came after the cab driver.
How can you just shoot somebody's head off and be like, oh, I want some more. I want to do it another time.
3 teenagers saw it and called police. But the dispatcher told officers the suspect was a black man. 2 cops drove right past the Zodiac, a white man walking calmly from the scene. He pointed them the wrong way and kept walking. The letters kept coming until 1974, then just stopped. Police looked at over 2,500 suspects. Nothing ever matched. In 2020, codebreakers cracked a second message that had gone unsolved for 51 years. It was just more taunting. 2 of his 4 messages have never been solved. Neither has the case. O.J. Simpson. O.J. Simpson was one of the most famous people in America, a football legend turned movie star. But he had a history of beating his wife, Nicole. In 1989, she called 911. He pleaded no contest and got a fine. On June 12, 1994, Nicole and her friend Ron Goldman were stabbed to death outside her home in Los Angeles. Police found Simpson's blood at the crime scene and the victim's blood in his car. He agreed to turn himself in. Instead, he ran. His friend drove him down the freeway in a white Bronco, while 95 million people watched on TV. He had a gun, a fake beard, his passport, and $8,000 in cash. At trial, his lawyers argued the police were racist, and the evidence was planted. When prosecutors asked him to try on a bloody glove found at his home, it didn't fit. His lawyer told the jury, "If it doesn't fit, you must acquit." They acquitted him in less than 4 hours. The victims' families sued in civil court. A second jury found him responsible for both deaths and ordered him to pay $33.5 million. He moved to Florida, where the law made it harder to collect.
Getting sued for $35 million gotta suck, I'm not gonna lie. Cause it's like 35 mil. All that work given to somebody else. Boy.
And paid almost none of it. In
Oh, he paid none
2006,
of
he
that
wrote a
too.
book called
I
If
was
I
about to
Did It,
say.
describing how he would have committed the murders. The Goldman family got the rights and published it as Confessions of the Killer. Simpson died in April 2024. The Goldmans never got their money. Casey Anthony. In June 2008, 2-year-old Kaylee Anthony disappeared in Orlando, Florida. Her mother, Casey Anthony, did not report her missing for 31 days. When she finally did, it was only after her own mother called police and said the car Casey had been driving smelled like a dead body. Casey told investigators that Kaylee had been kidnapped by a nanny named Zenaida Fernandez Gonzalez. Police quickly discovered that the nanny did not exist. Casey had also been lying about having a job at Universal Studios. Detectives walked her through the building. She led them down hallways for several minutes before finally admitting she didn't work there. In December 2008, Kaylee's remains were found in a wooded area less than a mile from the Anthony home. Duct tape was found near the skull. Prosecutors charged Casey Anthony with first-degree murder and sought the death penalty. They argued she had suffocated her daughter so she could be free from parental responsibility. The defense claimed Kaylee had accidentally drowned in the family
bad, y'all
pool
never seen
and that
big-
Casey's
big
father
real
helped
reaction.
cover it up. There was no clear cause of death.
This is not another AI website generator. This is Framer agents working directly inside your actual canvas. Watch this.
The trial became a media spectacle. After 11 hours of deliberation in July 2011, the jury found Casey Anthony not guilty of murder, aggravated child abuse, and aggravated manslaughter. She was convicted only of lying to police. She was sentenced to 4 years, but released after serving just over 3, with credit for time already served. To this day, many people believe she got away with killing her daughter. Under the law, she cannot be tried again. George Zimmerman. On February 26, 2012, 17-year-old Trayvon Martin was walking back to the house where he was staying in Sanford, Florida. George Zimmerman, a neighborhood watch volunteer, called police to report a suspicious person in the area. The dispatcher told him he did not need to follow the teenager. Zimmerman followed him anyway. Minutes later, there was a confrontation. A gunshot was heard. Trayvon Martin was found face down in the grass. He had been shot in the chest. Zimmerman claimed self-defense. He said Martin attacked him and that he feared for his life. Florida's Stand Your Ground law became central to the
Let me guess. He did it because he was black. Let me just guess. Let me guess. He did it because he was black.
case. In July 2013, after more than 16 hours of deliberation, a jury of 6 women found George Zimmerman not guilty of second-degree murder and manslaughter. The verdict sparked protests across the country. The Department of Justice later investigated possible civil rights charges, but declined to file them. Zimmerman walked free. He has never been convicted in connection with Trayvon Martin's death. HSBC. In 2012, a United States Senate investigation revealed that HSBC, one of the largest banks in the world, had allowed drug cartels to launder hundreds of millions of dollars through its accounts. The bank had also processed transactions for countries under U.S. sanctions, including Iran. Internal warnings had been ignored for years. Compliance systems were weak. Oversight was minimal. According to investigators, Mexican drug cartels were able to move vast sums of cash through HSBC branches with little resistance. The Department of Justice announced that the bank would pay a record $1.9 billion fine. No criminal charges were filed against any top executives. Federal officials later suggested that prosecuting the bank could have destabilized the global financial system. The phrase, "too big to jail," began appearing in headlines. HSBC admitted wrongdoing. It paid the fine. Its executives kept their positions. No one went to prison. If you'd like to see more stories like this,
Hey, if you'd like to see more stories like this, don't subscribe to him. Subscribe to me.